Welcome to Target Market Insights, the multifamily and marketing podcast. Each week, John Kasman interviews multifamily and marketing experts to teach you how to find the best places to invest, attract investors, and grow your portfolio. You are listening to Target Market Insights with your host, John Kasman.
Welcome to Target Market Insights. I'm your host, John Kasman, founder of Kasman Capital Group, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. Now, if you're enjoying this podcast, I need you to do me a favor. Take 1 minute and leave us a 5-star rating and review. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now, if you're interested in multifamily investing and you want to review a sample deal package, you are in luck. And we have a special download on our website. Just go to kasmancapital.com/sample deal, and you'll get access to a sample deal package to see how we put together an offering. And you'll also join our mailing list to get tips and exclusive investment opportunities if you qualify. Now, today we're going to be talking to Andrew Keel, who is the owner of Keel Team LLC, and his team currently manages 14 manufactured housing communities across 6 states. Let's welcome to the show, Andrew Keel.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Andrew, I did a brief intro for you, but why don't you take 30 seconds and give a little bit more of a background of who you are?
Sure. I started out flipping houses in Central Florida area, ended up finding a couple mobile home deals and started doing Lonnie deals, read a book called Deals on Wheels, escalated from there and decided I wanted to get into the mobile home park business. Since diving into that, we've scaled up the business to several parks. You know, we actually have 16 parks now. We've acquired 2 more since our bio. And, you know, we're continuing to grow and looking to, you know, get our total portfolio to 5,000 lots.
Awesome, man. Congratulations on the success and building the portfolio and the additional 2 parks that we didn't mention from the bio. You said
Thank
a word that many of our listeners may not be familiar with. You said Lonnie. What is Lonnie?
Yeah, so Lonnie Scruggs is the author of a book called Deals on Wheels, and he taught people how to buy individual mobile homes in parks, you know, do a little bit of rehab to them, and then sell them on contract. So that's how I got started. I started out actually, you know, flipping houses and wholesaling, doing single family. I got a lead through my marketing efforts on 2 mobile homes in Ocala, Florida. And I didn't know what to do with them. So I got on YouTube. You know, in today's day and age, you just use technology. And I said, how do I make money on mobile homes? And all these videos showed up by this guy named Lonnie Scruggs, who wrote this book, Deals on Wheels. I bought his book. I bought in. I actually did about 19 of those Lonnie deals and created mailbox money. And then after that, you know, the next progression was to get into the park business, you know, because someone told me, a really wise man told me, hey, the real wealth is built in the real estate and not in the mobile homes. So when I made that transition, you know, things were much easier to scale, and it's been a great path.
I love that. Let's unpack some of that, right? So you said you were buying these on contract. So were you buying the actual mobile home itself, the unit?
Correct. So I would actually buy the mobile home cash for like $1,000, and then I would put minimal work into them, maybe some new flooring or a little bit of paint, and then I would sell the home for like $2,000 down and $250 a month for 4 years. So those were the type of deals that I was working and selling them on contract to the end buyer that would also pay the lot rent.
Got it. That makes sense to me. So if breaking that into more traditional real estate, well, it clearly is not traditional, but if you were thinking about more single family houses, what you were doing was going out, you're buying this individual, you know, mobile home, you're renovating it, and then you're basically doing a rent to own for that mobile home.
That's exactly right. And I'll be honest, I didn't start out with a lot of cash. You know, I didn't have family money or anything backing me. So when I was getting started, this was the easiest way for me to kind of break in and become a quote unquote landlord. And mobile homes were the least common denominator. And what changed my whole game was doing those first couple of mobile homes and putting them online and actually marketing them and seeing the demand there was to buy these mobile homes. It's off the charts. The demand for this asset class is unbelievable. And that really bought me into mobile homes in general.
So I love a couple of things. One, you mentioned that not having a lot of money, and I know we always talk about large multifamily and syndication, and I get feedback from time to time that, hey, I'd love to do that. I just don't have the capital to invest, 50K, 100K, whatever it is, into a deal. I think that you need to start wherever you're at. You're talking about getting into these deals with $1,000, being able to
Yeah.
go out, buy a mobile home, renovate it and put it back on the market, and now you're getting residual income because you're renting them for what, $300, $400 a month, whatever it is, and you only you're probably in just a couple thousand yourself. So I mean, there's a lot of different strategies you can use. I think that's the
Mhm.
beauty of real estate, is that there are a lot of different strategies that you can employ. There are things that maybe work really well with single family homes that maybe don't work in other aspects, but maybe some things are applicable. So if there's strategies that are working elsewhere, there's an opportunity to think about, hey, how might I apply this over in this sector, right? So I think there's some really interesting nuggets there. And just again, for anyone looking to open up their mind to opportunities, this is another great way to think about it. Andrew, you talked about the demand and how much demand there actually is right now for the mobile homes, or at least when you were starting out in that space. We typically focus more on multifamily, but a lot of multifamily investors I know, they keep their eye on mobile parks because we do think that they are recession proof, given kind of where we're at right now in this cycle and kind of the chirpings that you hear. What do you think about the demand for mobile homes? And, do you agree that it is actually recession proof?
I do agree that it is somewhat recession proof. I mean, when there is a recession, everybody feels it. But the people that are making $10 to $15 an hour, they're not going to get massive layoffs. The people that get the layoffs are the middle management, the kind of add-on employees. So our demographic, they don't really feel it as much, but there is some weight, that they will feel. But mobile home parks had 0 quarters of negative growth through the last downturn, through 2008, and I think that speaks volumes about the asset class because it is America's most affordable form of housing that's not subsidized, and that says something, given our economic culture right now.
So said differently, it was mobile home park saw positive to flat growth every quarter, even during the recession.
Correct.
Got it. Got it. So again, great nuggets there. It's really good to understand. All right. So you started with kind of the mobile park, the home itself, and then you realize, hey, yes, this is great. This is a good way to get started, but the real value, the real equity is in owning the real estate in the park, the land underneath that mobile home. Talk to us about that transition.
Yeah, so I actually met a park owner that I was doing some Lonnie deals through his parks, and he was actually helping, send me mobile homes to do deals on because he just wanted lot rent. And I took him out to lunch. We sat down, and he told me, he said, the real value is in the real estate. There's tax depreciation, there's other benefits to owning the real estate versus the mobile homes. The mobile homes will have a life expectancy that will reach its end at some point, and the land is always going to be there. So something just clicked. I went home from that lunch meeting. I wrote on my fridge with dry erase marker, I said, buy a mobile home park by the end of this year. And I looked at it every day, and I actually didn't execute that plan. It took me longer than a year to actually get to where I could buy a park, but I saw it every day, was motivated to do it, and just was all in. I went to several different boot camps and like training seminars, and I went to an MHU boot camp with Frank and Dave. They have like a 3-day boot camp that I highly recommend, very, very educational. And at that boot camp, I met some passive investors, and one of them ended up funding my first deal. So that was a game changer for me, was attending that and having that lunch and kind of shifting my mindset on, just creating temporary cash flow versus forever cash flow in the mobile home park versus just the homes.
I love that. And just to break that down a little bit, you talked about the transition in your mindset, going from flipping these Lonnie deals, right? Buying the mobile homes and kind of flipping them, putting them back in the market, to focusing more on the real estate. There sounded like there's a few pivotal moments. All right. So one was that lunch with the mobile park homeowner,
Hmm.
where he kind of really put that seed in your head to say, listen, the real money is owning the land, the real estate. That kind of was the first spark. Even though you didn't take action immediately, that was the first spark. And then I do think that writing it down on the wall or on your refrigerator, I think that's another thing, because even though you didn't take action, you forced yourself to keep this top of mind and you wrote it down. And I think that sometimes simply writing down a goal is a very critical step that you may, if you can get it out of your head, put it on paper, now it becomes something real. It's something that you can visualize. It's something that you can think about subconsciously. You just start to think about it in different relationships and conversations, and figuring out ways to take action. So I think that was really important. The third thing was going to that conference. Going to that conference, obviously getting to learn and get your education strong, but making those connections with that passive investor that allowed you to grow and invest and do the deal. I mean, we talk a lot about networking. Networking is a very important part of how you grow as an investor. I know that, if you're coming from corporate America, you may think of networking only in the sense of job hopping or going from one place to the next. But in real estate investing, if you really want to scale your business, if you want to go to the next level, you need to build a strong network, especially if you don't have all the educational resources or dollars. You need to network with folks who have that. So I always implore people to check out different events that are coming up, get out there, go to meetups, go to conferences though, because those are people who are very serious. If they paid hundreds of dollars to go to an event, they're serious about moving to the next level. And those are some great relationships to be had there. So coming out of that conference, talk to us a little bit more about like how you actually did that first deal. I mean, I'm assuming the investor didn't just stroke you a check while you were sitting there at lunch. So how did that first deal come about?
Definitely. So at the conference, we met. During this whole time period, I was cold calling mobile home parks. I was mailing letters. I was aiming, my wholesaling days. I was doing the same marketing, now just geared towards mobile home parks. And through my efforts, I had an off-market deal up in Edwardsville, Illinois, the Quail Run Mobile Home Park. It was 67 lots, and it was 5 states away from where I lived. I live in Orlando, Florida. This park was up near St. Louis. So cold called, got this deal. They wanted it at like a 9.5 cap, which is basically a way to value the income the property produces. And I got under contract. I used the contract from the boot camp, got it locked up, and then proceeded to contact the passive investor and say, hey, these are the terms that I'm comfortable with. Are you comfortable with this? We negotiated, we put it in writing, and we moved forward on it. And, we got the financing lined up. It was very tough because your first deal, the banks are like, hey, you don't have any experience in this asset class. We're skeptical on giving you this loan. And, long story short, we got the deal done, and it ended up being a great success. I mean, I just dove into that property. We had great on-site managers that we hired, and we were able to turn it around in about 21 months.
Oh.
And refi out all the initial capital that was invested. And there's actually a case study on my website, keelteam.com, that goes through the whole deal and the total return. And it was just a home run deal. So it was, since that deal, I've done 4 other deals with that same passive investor. And I've also brought on other equity partners. And we actually did a full-on syndication last year where we raised about $2 million from 18 different investors.
Awesome.
So it's been a great journey.
Excellent. So you mentioned on that first deal that the bank was a little hesitant to finance it. What did you say to them, or what did you do to overcome their hesitation?
Well, to be honest, I contacted like 20 banks, and then it kind of like fizzled down into there was like 2 that were serious about the loan. And the one that we ended up going with is right around the corner from the property. So they knew the value of the asset. They had the previous loan on the asset from the seller. So they had the financials, they had the bank accounts, they saw the income. And I think the property itself spoke volumes, based off the cash flow they saw. From myself, I just tried to show them, hey, this is what I've done in real estate to date, because I did have other single family rentals, and I had been doing the rehabbing and flipping and wholesaling. So I tried to, show them that was my experience and that I was going to be spending time on this property. And then also the business plan. I took a lot of time to focus on the financials and really train them on, hey, this is how we're going to add value to the property. And I think that really is what got the deal done.
Awesome. And great tips. I mean, if you're listening to this, Andrew just gave you a great roadmap. I mean, one, if you're having a hard time getting financing for a deal or you're not getting the banks on your page, the person who underwrote and financed the deal the previous time, they've already shown an interest in the property. It may not be a bad deal to talk to them and spend a little bit more time talking to them, have a strong business plan, and present yourself in a very professional manner. Whatever experience you do have, leverage it, lean into it. It's also even with the Lonnie deals you were doing, right? It's not like you're walking in completely
It's true.
blind to mobile parks. I mean, you've been on mobile parks, you've renovated mobile homes, so there is some knowledge and experience there. So I think to those points, if you're new, you're getting into your first deal, your first syndication deal, whatever it is, you have to figure out how do you leverage your credibility, leverage the experience you do have. And sometimes you have to bring in partners and things like that, but make sure you're telling a great story when you're trying to get those deals done. So before we move on, Andrew, you also talked about, this one, being in Illinois, close to St. Louis, 5 states away from you, ended up being a home run deal. I know you've done a lot of stuff in the Midwest. What was it about the location in particular that you liked, or was it just simply that this guy responded to you? But what is it about the location? What do you look for now when you're seeking these deals and opportunities?
Sure. So we specifically targeted the Midwest for a few reasons. A couple of those being number one, the stigma of living in a mobile home in a mobile home park is not as strong, we found, in the Midwest compared to the Southeast and other parts of the country. It's normal for, newlyweds, just moving out of their parents' house to have their first house in a mobile home park. It's not, a it's not even a second thought. And some of these communities, when people think mobile home parks, they immediately think like trailer trash, 8 Mile, trailer park boys. They think of the least common denominator. But really, a lot of these mobile home parks are nice subdivisions. They have nice entryways, they have nice driveways, they have great mailboxes, and it's not what people think when they think of the stereotype of a trailer park. So in the Midwest, the stigma wasn't as strong. Number two, there's great growth there that's very steady. There's not big market cycles like there are in other parts of the country. It's good, steady growth, and that was important for our long-term strategy because we want to buy and hold our properties. We don't plan on selling them. We plan on holding them for the cash flow long term. So that's another important reason. And then we've just found that across the Midwest, that we've just found better quality of people and better pricing on the assets. In Central Florida, I looked for mobile home parks around that area, and they were just so expensive that the numbers just didn't make sense. And we were able to provide the returns to our investors off of the assets in the Midwest. So, and then now that we have a few properties there, it makes sense for us to cluster, and we get economies of scale. We save ourselves money when we have to make an asset manager trip up there to see the properties every quarter. We can cluster them together and spread that travel cost across several parks. So it makes sense now to cluster there. And also on the coastal states, you got to worry about things like, hurricanes and massive windstorms, things like that off of the coast, where in the Midwest, yeah, you have an occasional tornado. But we've been very fortunate on that behalf, and we have insurance in place to cover us in the event of an issue like that. So those are a couple of reasons why.
Great reasons. And I think too, to your point, the southeast, southwest regions of the country, they're still really developing. They have a lot of vacant land where you can still come and develop. And to a degree, they're still, both are pretty affordable, but there's just a lot of land that's available to develop there. And I think in the Midwest, especially some of the larger areas, they're a bit more developed. So if you go out to the rural areas, obviously there's different opportunities, but that stigma is not the same, just because I think people have been living like that for a little bit longer than other parts of the country too. And I love your point about the weather. That's one thing that I don't think people talk about enough. We just kind of had the hurricanes with Dorian and whatnot. And, I think that oftentimes, we have to always look at that, right? When you're investing in some of these warmer regions, you're looking at earthquakes, you're looking at hurricanes, you're looking at floods, natural disasters. And yes, you get tornadoes in the Midwest, but those are fewer in between. And there's not a whole lot you can do to prepare, for that. That's kind of I don't want to say luck, but that's not something you can truly prepare for versus, if you buy a property on the, eastern coast of Florida, you should probably consider hurricanes, right? I mean, you should probably consider, how stable is the property and, all those kind of things to protect yourself. So there's a lot of things to consider for sure when you're looking at it. I love the way you broke down what you found in the Midwest, what you like about it, and where you see the opportunities. Um, Many people are listening are multifamily investors or more familiar with the way multifamily property is valued and what kind of metrics to look for. What metrics do you look for when you're looking at a mobile park home community?
A few of them, just to briefly kind of skim through it, because there is so much that goes into a deal. But we want to buy a property that's usually within, a metro that has at least 50,000 people. We want to buy parks that are 50 lots or more. The same amount of work goes into a 30-lot mobile home park that goes into a 100-lot mobile park. So you might as well go after the 100-lot because there's going to be more meat on the bone there in terms of compensation for the sponsor and for the equity partners. Utilities are huge. A lot of mobile home parks have private utilities, which would be like septic tanks, wells, sewer treatment plants. And we try to stay away from those and go towards city water, city sewer. However, we do have properties that have septic tanks and wells. It just, all things considered, they have to, grade out at a certain level. But yeah, those are just a few things that we look for when we try to acquire mobile home parks. And like I said, we do different things to kind of attract those different deals. One thing that we started doing is partnering with people that bring us deals, because that's really one bottleneck in my business right now is finding good deals that make sense. So we've started, like a coaching program, you could say, where people would bring us deals because we have quite a bit of investor capital available through my partners and through my network now. So when people bring deals, we can bring them in on equity, and it's an easy way for someone to, acquire their first park and learn the operations side of the business as well.
No, I love that. That's a great way to give people the experience that they're looking for to get in on a deal and also create a win-win situation. So I love that. That's a great piece to it. And then last thing on this, you do something special to kind of make sure the execution of the business plan turns out well. I know you spend a lot of time on property. How much time actually are you spending there?
Yeah, it depends on every property, the amount of time necessary, but I think it's paramount to move on site for the first couple of months after you acquire a property that needs a lot of work, which would be infill of homes, rehabbing of homes. So we've moved on site over the past couple of years. My family comes, my vice president of operations comes, and we move on site and basically get our hands dirty while we're executing the business plan. And that has worked wonders for us and saved us a lot of money because, rehabbing mobile homes, one thing that's different compared to multifamily and other asset classes is that you're not going to be able to get general contractors that, have this 20 years of experience. You're going to have to, go with more like handyman type of people. And with that, there's opportunity there for you to lose money if you're not minding your P's and Q's and watching the work that they're doing. And we've just saved ourselves a ton of time and ton of money just being on site and making sure that the renovation process goes well.
No, I love that tip, especially for anyone who is looking at it in renovations, making sure that you are close to the property, overseeing the construction side of things to really manage that. That's something we've learned as well. So great tips there. All right, Andrew, you ready for the Bullseye round?
Yes, sir.
All right. How has a failure or an apparent failure set you up for later success?
So I would say if I go back to when I was flipping houses, one of the houses we kind of took a chance on, we paid a little bit too much for it, and we ended up breaking even on that deal. But the way I look at it is we broke even on paper, but the time and effort and everything that I put into that deal, really we lost quite a bit of money on that deal based off of the time I put into it. So when I'm acquiring mobile home parks, I'm not just taking chances at deals that might or might not work out. We really spend a lot of time on due diligence, and that is very, very important in mobile home parks, considering that some of these assets are, well over 60 years old. So we spend a lot of time on making sure the infrastructure is intact so that we can really pinpoint our costs that we need to raise, for our capital raise, CapEx costs. And, that's really helped set us up for the future, is making sure that our due diligence is done properly.
What is the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year?
There's this book called 5, and it talks about the things you can accomplish in the next 5 years. It's a real skinny book. I always have like 10 of those books on my bookshelf at all time just to give to people, because it's just such a goal-oriented book, and it talks about, it gives a lot of examples of what people have done in 5 years to completely turn their lives around. So that's one of my top ones. And then also Deals on Wheels by Lonnie Scruggs is a great one as well.
All right, give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
I would say a digital resource, in regards to mobile home park investing specifically, there is the Mobile Home Park Mastery podcast that Frank Rolfe puts on, and he's Frank from Frank and Dave's MHU boot camp. So I highly recommend that. It's like a 10 to 15 minute podcast once a week. Very, very valuable content.
What is a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
I work out every day. I'm actually training for an Ironman, and it just helps me. You'd think it would do the opposite, but it gives me more energy later in the day after I work out every morning to help me keep going and help me stay focused and help me to stay healthy.
What's one thing you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting out?
I wish I would have known how easy it is to raise private money for bigger deals. In the beginning, it was, just raising private money is easy if you have the business plan and the numbers make sense. And, I wish I would have gone after bigger properties earlier.
What's one thing you know now that you wish you knew 12 months ago?
12 months ago, that's a good one. I would say, 12 months ago, September last year. So we closed on a 5 mobile home park portfolio in Illinois last year. And within that property, we brought in 23 used homes to fill vacant lots and 17 new homes. So through that process, we learned a ton of information. And one thing that I wish I knew 12 months ago on that property specifically was the amount of effort and time that goes into the concrete work necessary on the new homes for HUD, because we actually extended our time frame about 3 months additional compared to what we had planned on due to extra site prep work that was needed.
Got it. Good. What are you curious about right now?
I'm curious about a lot of things. This morning I read this really cool economics article. A guy won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he's studying Burning Man out in Nevada. He's studying the infrastructure of how they set up a city in the middle of the desert in a few weeks and how it all works. So something random, but yeah, interesting.
It sounds like an interesting read on how he's doing that. So it's good. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So you mentioned you were in Florida. Are you still in Florida?
Right now I'm in Arkansas. We just acquired a property, so I'm actually in a Holiday Inn Express doing this interview. I've been here all week working on a property that we just acquired, and I'll be heading back next week to Orlando.
All right, so I'll tell you what, we're going to ask this as a 2-part question. Since you've been there for a week, have you found a good place to eat? I'm not going to name it the best place to grab a bite, but have you found a good place that you like so far?
We have found a good place. It's Old Time Barbecue here in Mountain Home, Arkansas. Really good smoked chicken.
All right, nice. All right, now give me the best place to grab a bite back in Orlando.
Best place to grab a bite in Orlando, I would say, is Prado. It's down in Winter Park. It's off of Park Avenue. Really good place to get really, homegrown, farm to table type of food. Highly recommended.
Excellent, Andrew. A lot of great information today. I love your story and how you took action with just really those Lonnie deals starting out, using that, transforming into that first mobile home park, and then building to now 16 mobile home parks. So phenomenal success there. And I love a lot of the tangible, practical steps you took that our listeners can implement as they're looking to kind of grow their own portfolios. How can they get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, if they're interested in maybe JVing on a deal and bringing a deal to the table where we can help fund and operate it, or if they're interested in investing in a deal that we put together, like one of our syndications, they can check out my website. It's keelteam.com. That's KEELTEAM.com, and set up a consult, and I'd be happy to chat with them one-on-one.
Andrew, thank you for coming on the show today, man. It's a lot of fun talking to you. I hope you have a great day and enjoy the rest of your trip in Arkansas.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you having me.
All right, take care.
Take care.